Welcome to Union Money. I'm Bryan Hirsch. This evening we're focusing on retirement planning. To quote, "If you plan, you prosper." Sadly, most people put more planning in their annual 2-week holiday to the coast of their dream skiing trip than they'll ever put into planning for their life in retirement. This is truth 9th of Kim Potgieter's 10 retirement truths in a book, and it's called Retirement. And I'm delighted to welcome Kim back to our program.
Thanks, Bryan.
Head of Life Planning at Chartered Wealth, and it's good to have you back. Kim, in your book, and I must tell you, I'm fascinated by the concept of life planning, retirement planning, not all about the financial stuff, but all about planning for real retirement. But some of the things that are important is, how do you actually look at retirement? You deal with it in your book, but just share with our viewers.
I think the biggest thing for me and what I try and encourage people is to see it as another chapter of their lives. I mean, for most people, and that's why they don't want to plan retirement, they see it as a line in the sand, that when they get to this time, that they're going to wake up and they're going to be somebody different. But that's not the case. There's this whole chapter of a new life that you can plan. And the important part, and Bryan, this is the important part, as long as you're planning what you're retiring to, and stop worrying about what you're retiring from, I see people having much more successful retirements.
When you come to retirement, obviously there are many ways of saving for retirement. So let's just unpack that. What are the best ways of people saving for retirement? And what are the problems for people when they suddenly wake up in their 40s and 50s and suddenly calculate, and when you talk about what are they retiring to, they can understand they just don't have enough money.
So for a lot of those people, okay, I mean, there's a few questions you've asked me, but so they don't have enough money. And the biggest thing that they can concentrate on then is to still make sure that they don't then decide, well, because I'm not going to have enough, I'm not even going to start saving. It's to put in a plan then of saving. But again, you can't be saving all your salary, otherwise you're not even living. So they need to allocate an amount. But then I always say to people, if they've left it too late, concentrate on working on yourself, because you're your greatest asset. You know, we all look at our money as our greatest asset, but actually it's ourselves. So go and do more courses, make yourself indispensable, so that don't think of stopping working at 63. I mean, who can stop working at 63 when we're going to live to 90 and 100? Start thinking of how do you make yourself more marketable so that you can stay working for much longer. So for me, that's a big thing. And yes, consistently be saving and putting it away in your retirement annuities, your pension funds, and actually other investments, your unit trust investments. As long as you're putting away religiously, letting it do its work while you're sleeping, and at the same time working on yourself, I think the two together really help your planning for your retirement.
So we understand longevity. I mean, no one can tell how long they're going to live. No. We understand inflation. We understand to beat inflation, you have to take some risk. But do you find that one of the major problems is that people, they behave differently with their money? They come to retirement, they've got this lump sum, they think they've got enough to last them, and all of a sudden they start doing things which is not about providing enough income for their retiring years, and the question of longevity.
So I do a lot of workshops and helping people to prepare for retirement. And the biggest thing is, when I speak to people, they say it's the biggest amount of money that they ever get. So they get so excited and they start planning to fix up their house, to buy a new car, to go on an overseas trip. So they start doing all of this, not understanding that that money is really got to be planned to last till 100. So it's so important that you don't go and overspend in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you become dependent on everybody else. So that proper planning of saying, sitting with somebody and saying, these are my real expenses, not expenses that I wish I had. These are my real expenses, this is the money I've got, and start allocating it correctly from the beginning, instead of overspending in the beginning and then waking up at 70 and saying, oh my gosh, who's going to look after me now?
Because the big problem really today is people today are living that much longer, and they've got and they're saving for shorter, because so many people only start in their 40s. It means that 25 years later they could be living another 25, 30 years. That the 25 years saving has got to last them 50, 60 years.
Longer, so exactly that. But people don't understand it, because if you think about it, when we start talking to people in their 20s, when you start your first job and somebody comes to you and says, how much of your salary do you want to put away? I mean, you have got cars that you want to buy, you've got houses you want to buy, a lot of people have got school fees, they've got all these things they want to do, so they're thinking more for the moment, for the now. And if only we were probably talking less about retirement and more about telling people that they were saving for freedom of choice, we might be able to get younger people to start saving. So I think when I say to a younger person, you must save for retirement, they say that's never going to happen, it's not part of my plans. Whereas you say, if you have got investments, first of all, that are working for you, and secondly, if you have got investments so that one day you might have a decision and you need money to make that decision, it's there. And you can, I think you can market to them in a different way than this time in their lives that just seems too far off.
You know, if you think about a 25-year-old retirement, they've only been working a few years, qualified a couple of years. I mean, you talk to them about retiring 40 years. I mean, it's twice a lifetime, of which 15 to 18 years was schooling and things like that. Very difficult to convince.
They're so
but
excited about earning some money. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, my gosh, it's, you know, and now you're saying to them, no, go and put that away. And unless you can relate it to their life. So if you can relate it to different things, like the question I often ask young people is, if your life turned out well, how does it look? So you can start them planning. So that same quote, if you've got a plan, you can prosper. But a lot of people are not thinking, they're thinking for the moment. So I like to sit with clients, get them to plan what their life will look like. So when they've got a choice, do I save or do I go and buy that fancier car or whatever, they say, no, I actually am making an informed decision because it's something I want to achieve. It's not something somebody else has set for me. It's something that I want to do. So I go through quite a long process with young people. I call it intentional investing. So there's an intention behind why they're putting money away. And I have had a lot of success with that where actually they want to do it and they don't feel like we're forcing them as planners.
Well, we're going to take a break now. You're watching New Money. We're talking retirement planning this evening. Stay tuned. We will give the number out when we return. I'll be back shortly.